to move around
because
they would be closed. And we're live, and welcome back, Gay USA viewers on YouTube and on Facebook. I'm Andy Humm, and I'm here with my friend
Rob Shooter. I'll introduce myself. Hello, it's good to be back. I loved doing last week. It's good to do 2 weeks. I feel like now I'm in the saddle. Right now I'm warmed up.
I know, you get all warmed up, and I'm sure Ed would like to give you many more opportunities.
No, and we are missing you if you're listening. Maybe not to the live feed, but I know you'll be watching the show. We miss you.
We love Anne for sure, and of course
tons of stories, lots of stuff going on.
Once again, what a week! It's exhausting, isn't it, folks? But we are about to go on.
I think the thing is like not to lose spirit, though. We've got to keep our chin up. I know, we've got to keep our chin up.
Trying.
It's going to be okay.
Okay.
I think.
Oh, yeah. I hope. Your husband asked me if we were going to be
okay. He did ask me. He told me. He did tell me.
And we have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA. I'm Andy Humm.
And I'm Rob Shooter, filling in for Anne.
Well, nice to see you, Rob. Nice to have you back again.
I like it, too.
And you look very Eastery. And so I've tried to be a little bit more colorful, too.
I like a bright color. When I first started to do television a long time ago, Diane Sawyer, of all people, gave me some great advice. Yes. And she said, it doesn't really matter what you say on television. Thank you, Diane. Wear a bright color.
Interesting. I just usually.
But you say better stuff than I do. When you're as smart as you can wear black. When you like me, it has to be bright.
Oh, interesting. Well, let's get to the news. Yeah. Brace yourselves.
Oof.
Donald Trump bonded this week with El Salvador's dictator over banning trans women from sports and incarcerating innocent people, and soon American citizens.
Leading gay activists are calling for all the pride parades to make Andre Jose Fernandez Romono, the gay stylist who was wrongfully imprisoned by Trump in El Salvador, their grand marshal. Good idea.
Interesting. And it was nice to see Harvard standing up to Trump's mafia-style demands, and so Trump is freezing their grants and threatening their tax exemption.
Bernie Sanders and AOC are attracting massive anti-Trump crowds, and they're prodding the Democratic leaders to get more aggressive with fighting fascism.
The lesbian EEOC, the Equal Opportunity Commissioner, who was illegally removed by Trump, well, she's suing to be reinstated.
The two state attorneys generals who are doing the most to protect your social security, they happen to be lesbians.
Well, they're the leaders. Colorado repealed its currently unconstitutional law against same-sex marriage. You should try that in your state if you have one.
Trump's transportation secretary is going to resurrect Jesus, see what we did there, in the Service Academy's administrative building.
Well, that might sound a little confusing, but we'll show you.
Explain.
A really horrible story out of Hungary, but what isn't? That's the model for the United States these days. Their constitution now bans public LGBTQ events and bans transgender identity.
The horrific murder of a trans woman in Colombia has sparked outrage, including from the country's president.
And Oscar Wilde is eligible for a Tony Award this year. We'll explain later on.
It's my favorite story of the day.
Okay. So, let's start with our happy stories. Harvard did refuse to bend the knee, and it shames those who have bent the knee. And the president of Harvard, Alan Gerber, said, no government, regardless of which party is in power, should dictate what private universities can teach, whom they can admit and hire, and which areas of study and inquiry they can pursue. So bravo, Alan Gerber. And he said that the university is not prepared to agree to demands that go beyond the lawful authority of this or any other administration. So how is Trump responding to that?
What's he have to say?
Let's take away your tax-exempt status. Let's take away $8.7 billion in grants that you're getting.
It's interesting. Barack Obama has come forward really praising Harvard here for being so brave. And I think this might have a knock-on effect now to other universities. Columbia, who has not been so great about this.
They've been terrible.
They seem now that maybe there might be a
well,
change there.
Now they're trying to backtrack, but it's a little late. You can never give in to bullies, as we know. You can't give in to bullies because they're always going to ask more. But seriously, in terms of this story, look at what they were asking, what Trump was demanding of Harvard. Reduce the power of students and faculty members over the university's affairs. Report foreign students who commit conduct violations immediately to federal authorities. Bring in an outside party to ensure each academic department is viewpoint diverse, among many other steps. I mean, they were trying to take over the university. Yeah. And, the way the Trump people approach this is, and if you don't do this, you're violating the civil rights laws. This is their line. So they have to be stood up.
And I think, too, the threats are terrifying, but the financial implications are horrifying to this university.
Well, Harvard's got, an endowment of like $60 billion or something.
Because now trending online are people giving donations now to Harvard. People that didn't necessarily even go to Harvard are now suddenly making it their pet course.
Well, now I have to say that in March, Harvard ousted its personnel at the Center for Middle Eastern Studies and suspended programming focused on Israel and Palestine at the Harvard Divinity School. So they had, in the beginning, they were, trying to forestall this. But then the Trump people come in and they just demand too much. And there's no way to satisfy them, which is why we're all worried. All right. Okay. Enough about that. And you have some happy stories.
So Naples Pride is suing the city over unconstitutional security fees. So the Pride organizers are suing the city of Naples in Florida, claiming that these imposed really excessive fees are unconstitutional. The lawsuit is going forward, challenging the city's decision to reject a special permit. The city has said no to a special permit, and now these fees are astronomical, and Pride might not be able to happen because
they've
of the cost.
Got the ACLU on their side. They will win.
They were going to win. They're going to win. But what a waste of their time and their effort.
Exactly. It's like the schools that try to ban gay clubs.
Right.
They never win.
They're never going to win.
There was a federal law that says you have to have clubs. It started because they wanted religious clubs. And then they said, well, I guess we have to do the gays.
Right.
All right. And speaking of being aggressive, Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, they're barnstorming around the country. They got 36,000 in Los Angeles, 20,000 in Salt Lake City. They're shaming Democratic leaders into taking more aggressive action. Even Hakeem Jeffries, who was the Democratic leader in the House, got a picture of him. He took on Pete Hegseth this week over the censorship at the Naval Academy's library, which we're going to talk a little bit about more. And here is what Hakeem had to say.
These DEI hires in the Trump administration, like Pete Hegseth, the so-called Secretary of Defense, dumb effing individuals, continue to try to test our resolve and cancel our history. The latest is a book ban at the Naval Academy that removes works including those about slavery, the civil rights movement, and the Holocaust. At the same time, keeping books written by Adolf Hitler. Apparently, for these extremists, racist Nazi ideology and white supremacy is okay. We're going to keep the pressure on these extremists who continue to try to whitewash our history. They tried to cancel Jackie Robinson. We reversed it. They tried to cancel Harriet Tubman. We reversed it. They tried to cancel the Tuskegee Airmen. We reversed it. We're going to keep the pressure on until this book ban is reversed and Pete Hegseth is fired.
Well, no book should be banned. Mein Kampf should be there. It's an historical document, but I mean, then you're taking out a book about memorializing the Holocaust, and Maya Angelou's books, and a lot of LGBTQ books.
Yeah, we have a story about it a little bit later on, telling you who is really behind this. But I think AOC here and Bernie Sanders are really rallying up and getting people fired up and people really excited, including people in elective office. And those numbers, they're Taylor Swift numbers. Like, to get 30, 40,000 people to show up, that's bigger than Madison Square Garden. These numbers are extraordinary, and not just in blue states.
Right, absolutely. And then Maine Governor Janet Mills is fighting back versus Trump, and to some extent she's winning, although they're really she's the one who said, we're not going to change the way we treat trans students in schools and in sports. They've only got like 2, in the whole state.
And stood up to Trump in person in the White House.
Yes. And so she's suing him, and now they're suing her. So they're going after, and Pam Bondi, the new Attorney General, she's ready to go after everybody over this. If they claim it's all for the safety of women in sports, but it's an outrage, but they're doing that a lot. Yes.
Some positive news here. Colorado lawmakers are rushing to shield gay rights from the Trump administration policies. In response to the new anti-LGBTQ policies from the Trump administration, Colorado legislators are introducing new state-level safeguards. The governor there, Jared Polis, has signed the legislation.
Yeah, we do have a picture of him signing it somewhere. It's out of order, but there it is. Yes. We can't get. Okay. There it is. There's Jared Polis. There he is.
Signing this. So it's down to the states now, Andy. This is how this is going to happen.
Well, again,
work for a while.
This law ensures that even if this is important for our viewers, it ensures that even if the Supreme Court reverses Obergefell, the marriage equality thing, will still be legal in Colorado. Marriages between same-sex couples would still be recognized federally under the Respect for Marriage Act. Congress did pass that, and President Biden signed it. It protects same-sex and interracial marriages, which used to be illegal in this country often. And it, let's see, the act does not require states, however, to allow marriages between same-sex couples, and it allows them to enact bans. So you could have a state that itself bans it, but your marriage is still recognized if you were legally married. I mean, it's complicated, and we're all worried about it, but that's what the law does.
Do you see other states doing this too?
Well, they have. I mean, some of them, it's hard. I mean, California only last year repealed their constitutional amendment against same-sex marriage. Again, none of these were allowed to be enforced. Nevada did it, but it's moving very slowly, and some of the states would like to really ramp it up. Okay. Now, a former EEOC commissioner, Jocelyn Samuels, she's a former executive director of the UCLA School of Law's Williams Institute on Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity in Public Policy. She was appointed by Trump because the president has to appoint an equal number of Democrats and Republicans, but he got rid of her illegally. She didn't fill out her term, so she's suing. This abrupt and unlawful termination before my term's completion not only violates federal law, but fundamentally eviscerates the EEOC's independent structure. So that's what she's doing, and good on her.
Good on her. More positive news. Hundreds are protesting Pittsburgh's hospital, standing outside for denying gender-affirming care to trans youth. Let me explain. So activists are rallying outside hospitals in Pennsylvania after the medical system halted gender-affirming care for trans youths. Nearly 200 protesters turned up there saying that this is just outrageous and wanting to stand up and make their voices heard.
Well, we did that in New York as well, to NYU Langone and all these hospitals that suspended transgender youth care. And we got a court order that said, no, you can do it. No matter what the Trump people say, you can do it. And they did not reinstate it. Some of them said, oh, we'll keep treating the ones we were treating, but we're not taking any new patients. Come on. Your obligation as medical providers is first. do no harm.
Do no harm.
Now, World Pride, which is coming up in late May and early June, right in D.C., it's a mess now because even the organizers have issued a travel warning for trans and non-binary attendees. They were expecting 2 to 3 million visitors to the Capitol over 3 weeks, starting in May 17th. But they're now recommending that you consider the risk. Well, if you're transgender, if you're anybody coming into this country, people in Ireland are being warned, if you try to enter the United States, even if you're an American, you're leaving Ireland, you're coming back here, they have people over there who will check your phone. And do you have any like anti-Trump or, I don't know, pro-Palestinian? Or these are the kinds of things they're looking for. There are a bunch of thugs at the border who want to give you trouble. Sometimes they'll lock you up I'm worried about leaving the country and coming back.
My sister came to visit this weekend, and when I picked her up at the airport, I was a little concerned. She came in from London. We had really nothing to be concerned about. In a normal world, we wouldn't, but in this world, I was concerned. And before she came, she went through her social media profiles and deleted.
Really? Well, this is outrageous. And then all she's got on her social media profiles are speech, so come on.
The Trump administration has quietly dismantled the presidential...
Well, let me finish off on World Pride, because they're not being, I don't think they're being strong enough in terms of what the real risk is of coming here. And that's what we were talking about. It's not just for trans and non-binary attendees. It's for everybody.
Another Pride story, though, is that here Pride organizers are losing hundreds of thousands of dollars as sponsorship has really dried up because of everything that is going on. So it's
because they don't want to do DEI.
They're worried about it. They're worried about the Trump administration. And so Pride organizers in the US have reportedly lost about $350,000 per event in corporate sponsorships. Executive Director Susan Ford acknowledged that companies are facing pressure, but warned, this is a warning from Susan Ford, the executive director, quote, "We will remember who stood by us and who didn't."
Well, quite frankly, and I talked to the organizer of New York City Pride. I'm part of what's called Reclaim Pride, and we do the Queer Liberation March. It's just a march, and that's what we need this year. Everybody ought to dump the parades
and the floats
and have protest marches and march on your federal buildings and on other places because we are so targeted, and we know it. We knew it in November. We were the only group in the country with the Democrat vote went up. They talked about, Trump peeled off some blacks and a lot of Latinos and this kind of stuff, and women, but LGBTQ people, we went the other way because we know when we're being insulted. All right. So I'm 71 years old. I don't mind saying. I did get my Social Security check today, but we're all nervous about it.
Yeah.
So it's being dismantled by the Doge things. And the Trump administration, and it's incredible that there has not been infinitely more protest, as the regional office staff has been cut by 87%. They're trying to end it. So the only two state attorneys general to stand up and offer assistance and advocacy for their residents are Dana Nessel there on the left in Michigan and Chris Mays in Arizona. And they both happen to be out lesbians. And every attorney general needs to be doing this to assist their people in getting the benefits they're entitled to.
When do you think people will become outraged? When their checks don't appear?
You will get personally outraged when your check doesn't appear,
right.
But it's got to happen now. Obviously, people are nervous, but you got to get active. I can't believe this is.
I agree with you.
Happening.
I think
this used to be the third rail of politics.
Right. Wow. Trump administration has quietly dismantled the presidential HIV council. So the Trump administration is purging the presidential advisory council on HIV and AIDS. Health Secretary RFK Jr. has led sweeping layoffs. 10,000 federal health employees.
We're going to talk a lot more about that in AIDS news, but this is a massive. It's going to hurt us domestically and internationally.
And
Everything.
around the world, and it's massive.
More people will get sick and die. I have some good news. Trump's Solicitor General's office has lost most of its talent. It is expected to lose at least half of the 16 assistant lawyers because of their concerns about the Trump Justice Department. It's an unusual exodus that raises questions about Trump's ability to win any of these cases. They were getting sued constantly. They're not going to have lawyers, competent lawyers, who can come in there and work for them. And some of these judges, you come into court and you're unprepared, and they let you have it.
Good. The Trump administration is refusing to respond to reporters who use their pronouns in their emails. So senior Trump officials are refusing to answer journalist questions. If you have your choice of pronouns in that email, this has now been confirmed by the White House press secretary.
And, there were some people, of course, some of that arose from transgender people, but some of it arose from people who had names like Alex or Michael that, could
Sam.
go both ways or something, or Sam. And, so they put their pronouns in so that they got addressed properly. What happened to the First Amendment? All right. Now let's go to the Oval Office. Trump and the president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, is that how you say his name? Bukele. So now Trump is saying openly he wants to send U.S. criminals to these hellholes in El Salvador, and they were yucking it up about this in the White House. And Pam Bondi, who was sitting there, and she says, "We'll look into that, Mr. President. Read the Constitution." How much you can scream about this, but come on. The homegrowns are next, Trump said. You got to build. He's saying he didn't. It was a hot mic. You're going to have to build five more places for me
to hold them
down there to hold them. This is what I want to do.
He's saying it out loud. He's saying it out loud. Listen, he's saying it out loud. And
of course, these are torture camps. So they also bonded.
Say that again. That's very important. These are torture camps.
Yes.
These are not prisons.
Yes, that's right. Camps. You're going to die there. This is not the way anybody should be allowed to be treated. I have a lot of problems with the way we treat prisoners in the United States, but this is beyond that. So they also bonded. They said this openly during the meeting over banning trans women from sports. Trump says to the dictator, "Do you allow men to play in women's sports? Do you allow men to box your women? I know you have a lot of boxers. That's an abuse of a woman. That's abuse against a woman," the other dictator mumbled. And they just bonded on this and laughed about it. And, it's just unbelievable that they're so obsessed with this.
Obsessed in the Oval Office.
And then there is Andre Jose Hernandez Romero, 31, the gay male makeup artist swept up in Trump's exiling immigrants to El Salvador hellhole. So this week, we had some gay activists like Cleve Jones in San Francisco and Nicole Murray Ramirez in San Diego calling on all of us to make him the grand marshal of every pride parade, or one of the grand marshals of every pride, to draw attention to his case.
I think it's a great idea. I wish I'd thought of it myself. I think it's a really, really good idea. Often the pride festivals try to get somebody famous to be this. I remember once when I was working with all people, Paris Hilton, she was the grand marshal of the LA Pride, which probably wasn't the best person. This would be the best person. This is a good idea.
Well, of course, we always honor the fact that Ann Northrop was a grand marshal of the New York Pride Parade on a horse. She rode a horse down or up Fifth Avenue. I can't remember.
Was she clothed or was she Lady Godiva?
She was fully clothed.
There you go. Andy, have you been a grand marshal?
I once was a grand marshal of the Queen's Pride Parade.
Oh, see.
There you go.
Very nice.
Anyway. All right, then there's little Marco Rubio, your Secretary of State. We have a picture of him. Now the Trump administration is claiming the right to deport individuals based on their beliefs, their thoughts, their speech alone. It's like, if it seems like, you have a propensity maybe to disagree with our foreign policy, then we're not going to admit you or we're going to expel you. It's unbelievable. It's very Handmaid's Tale, you know. Said a State Department official anonymously.
Said a State Department
They're
official.
looking for anti-Christian bias. Now, look, I believe in the freedom of religion. Here we are in Holy Week for the Christians. I believe in your right to do all that. Please leave me alone. I'll leave you alone, kind of stuff. You know, nobody should try to impose anything. I don't believe in what you believe, but we have to be able to say that.
You can say, well, we thought we could say it. I don't think we can anymore. We can at the moment, I hope. I don't know. Okay, a Florida teacher has been fired for using a student's preferred name without parental consent. So that is Melissa Calhoun, and it's believed that she is the first educator in Florida to be fired specifically for affirming a student's identity without telling their parents. She admitted that she knowingly did not comply with the state statute, leading to a denial of her contract renewal for the next school year.
Terrible. Well, good for her for standing up. I mean,
she lost her job.
I mean, there's such a thing also as confidentiality. With kids, they have to be able to trust you, and you're not just, anytime something happens, you're not going to go, running to the parents and all that kind of stuff. I mean, obviously there are exceptions. If a kid is in, real horrible trouble, or if they're suicidal or they're violent or something like that, you of course involve parents. But anyway, all right. So staying on the State Department, we are withdrawing from the world. The Trump administration in a memo is proposing cutting 50% of the State Department's funding in the next fiscal year. And this includes eliminating all funding for international organizations, including the United Nations and NATO. Now, we fund a good quarter of the United Nations.
Yes.
And I have a friend who works for the UN, and we've already pulled out a lot of money out, and they're firing people all over the world from all these helping refugees and all this other kind of things that the UN does. So, and ending the Fulbright Scholars Program, for God's sakes. I mean, we're just withdrawing from the world and isolating ourselves, and then we're going to have no friends. And what's going to happen when we're in trouble? We should always remember that, the NATO pact says, if any of our nations is attacked, we all gather. What was the only time that was ever invoked? After 9/11. We were attacked after the United States, and all the NATO allies rallied to our side.
Right. Oh, the Texas AG has launched a probe into the USA fencing. Let me explain. So Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is investigating the USA Fencing Association after a cisgender athlete, Stephanie Turner, we spoke about this last week, was disqualified for refusing to compete against a transgender woman. Turner took the knee instead of facing her trans opponent, and she was immediately issued with a black card and disqualified. Now, Texas AG is going to probe the fencing organization.
I think she's suing over.
She is too.
Yes, also. The White House is asking Congress to claw back funding from NPR, National Public Radio, and PBS, Public Television. They want legislators to rescind $1 billion from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Now, it's not, a massive amount of their budget, but it's
going to make a dent. It's going to make a difference. It's something when your budget is as tight as
it really hurts the local public television stations, local radio stations and things, because they want to be the Ministry of Information that controls everything, and everybody has to watch Fox, I guess.
We have a gay Army reservist who has been booted after some X-rated account was exposed. So his name is Adam Harmon, and he was ousted from the Army Reserve after being linked with an explicit adult account. So it's now been deleted. We should point out that explicit content does violate military codes. However, advocates are asking if this has something more to do with his sexual identity.
Interesting. All right. So Trump's transportation secretary, this guy, Sean Duffy, he's a very devout Catholic. He went to the Merchant Marine Academy, and they erupted in applause when he demanded a painting of Jesus. We have a mural that used to hang there in the administrative building be restored. You want Jesus up from the basement? All right, great, he said. It's an historic painting, Christ on the Water. It was relocated because the Military Religious Freedom Foundation said, come on, this is a secular public building and we got to do with Jesus. I say, let's put up, murals of Harvey Milk. He was in the Navy, but or whoever. Right. If I had to walk in a public school past Jesus every day, I would think that's a little oppressive.
Oh, talking about transportation secretaries, our previous transportation secretary, Pete Buttigieg, is lighting up the internet because he has a beard. Look at a handsome Pete. So Pete there has some facial hair. He was appearing on Jon Stewart's podcast, and he was talking about the Trump tariffs, calling them absolute chaos and complete incompetence. However, the reason people seem to be talking about this, Andy, is Pete sporting some facial hair. He looks good.
Do you think he's trying to be Lincoln-esque?
What's
Lincoln didn't have a beard when he at first.
He did not.
Some kid wrote him a note and said, "You'd look good in a beard," so he grew one, which he was famous
do you
for.
Think we would look better in beards, Andy?
I had one during the pandemic because I just got tired of shaving at home and stuff. You almost got one today, but I did decide to shave for you.
Thank you. I feel honored.
For you.
Thank you. How long have you had your moustache?
Huh?
How long have you had the moustache?
Oh my God! Listen, the reason I can't shave this moustache over is because too many of you have insisted that it stay. I swear, over the years.
Did we have a poll? We should have a poll on the show.
No. I did a show in college where I had to grow a beard and a mustache, where I played sort of a Hemingway-esque character in Happy Birthday, Wanda June by Kurt Vonnegut. So after the show, I shaved off the beard, but I left the mustache, and it has never gone away.
Oh.
That's since the late
You wouldn't be
mid-70s.
you without that mustache,
So it's
Andy.
very retro.
I like it.
It's very retro.
You're retro.
All right, maybe someday it'll go. Well, okay. All right. April 22nd is coming up at the Supreme Court. They have a case that threatens to escalate LGBTQ book bans and could potentially implement policies similar to Florida's Don't Say Gay law in public schools. It's called Mahmoud versus Taylor. So a group of 6 Christian and Muslim parents from Montgomery County, Maryland, they want to be notified if there's a book in the classroom somewhere. Doesn't have to be part of the curriculum if it has anything to do with LGBTQ. I mean, it's nuts. It's just nuts. But they're going to hear that case. You can tune in on April 22nd. I'm sure it'll be on C-SPAN. We'll be watching.
Yeah, talking about book bans, the majority of book bans that have been requested were not coming from parents, but were actually coming from officials. Let me explain. 72% of book ban requests in 2024 came from pressure groups and from government officials, not from parents. 7 of the 10 most books feature LGBTQ themes and characters. Moms for Liberty, they were identified as a major source, and parents, they accounted for just 16% of these requests.
What do they think that they are accomplishing? Because, anything that you want to read is on your phone these days. Books, anything. I mean, you can't ban things.
They might be coming after these next.
Well, sure. Oh, they come after them in the airport. When you go through an airport, even if you're a U.S. citizen, I'm talking about if you're coming in from overseas, they can say, let's see what's on your phone. And I can say, no, I'm not going to open it. They say, then we'll take it. And then you're going to be put in a back room and grilled over it anyway. I mean, you have certain rights, but they have a right to go through your phone and see what you've been saying.
On my phone, they would find YouTube Gay USA. That's all I watch.
Yeah. And what have we been talking about
my
here?
goodness, they've got
the
me.
kinds of things that Marco
rethink,
Rubio will want to expel you from the country for.
Rethink my choices.
All right.
Them.
In Alabama, this is a nice story. A volleyball coach, Nathan Matthews, I don't have a picture of him, is the latest coach to be hired by the University of Alabama Crimson Tide women's volleyball team. Now the team has 2 openly gay male coaches. He was recommended by Jake Barrow, who himself is an out gay man, and the other assistant coach. That's Alabama. So when I read things like this, I know everything is horrible, but that's encouraging.
Very much so. You have to hold on to that stuff.
I'm trying.
You are.
I'm
I'll
trying.
I'll get you there. So a woman has been fired after a viral video showing her yelling homophobic slurs has really gone viral. So her name is Alison Murphy. She was screaming disgusting things at her neighbors. Her neighbors claim that she's been doing this for a really long time, intimidating their family, his partner, himself. Well, after this video went viral, her identity was quickly discovered, leading to her getting fired from her job. So we were just talking about phones. They can be very, very helpful.
Well, speaking of screaming, in New Hampshire, there was a game where some parents, 2 adult men at Bow High School, started screaming anti-trans things during the game. And what they actually did was they wore pink wristbands with 2 X's on them, a symbol used by anti-trans activists. I apologize. They weren't screaming. But it was meant to be anti-trans. And then they held up a sign that's saying, protect women's sports from female athletes. So they were asked to leave. They're saying, come on, it's a kid's game. What are you doing? And they said, this is our constitutional right. And a federal judge said, no, it's not. You're just being mean, and they have a right to have you not harass people during the game.
I love this.
And to protect the trans students.
Absolutely. I love this story. Kamala Harris has adopted Outsport's tagline. That tagline is courage is contagious. So
courage is contagious.
It's a good line, isn't it? Courage is contagious. I think it really is. Your courage has inspired me, Andy. You're out there marching away. My first march was because of you.
Really?
You invited me to my first march. It was to reclaim pride.
Oh, you came to reclaim pride, yes?
Yeah,
that was your first march here.
My first march in America.
Really?
And, it was
How
really,
did you enjoy it?
I was, it was contagious. Let me say that. It was contagious. So I love that she's using this. Outsports have been using it for a really long time. The phrase now is connected with Kamala, who's really encouraging people to be courageous, to have courage, and hoping that is indeed contagious.
Oh, great. In Utah, numerous colleges nationwide have shuttered their LGBTQ centers under political pressure to end all DEI at the schools. But at this school, they sort of they're fudging it at the Salt Lake Community, Utah Salt Lake Community College. What they're doing is they're just saying, well, we're not going to talk about how gays are oppressed or anything. We're just going to meet and support each other, and that's it. And so they're trying to still meet and exist without violating these rules. I mean, they're trying to get around them, but I think you need to defy them.
I think you do. The Log Cabin Republicans have launched a Central Missouri chapter. So there's a new chapter for the Log Cabin Republicans. It's opened in Central Missouri, and the goals are to support LGBTQ Republican candidates.
Can you get Josh Hawley to stop being such a bigot? How about that?
That's a good start.
Why would you want to support any Republican in Missouri? Tell me which Republican supports our equal rights. Anywhere. I mean, these days, really, come on. I mean, honestly, the whole party has become, it's become a fascist party. We remember the old Republican Party. There was some diversity. There was some, whatever. John McCain, you want to, whatever. Not that he was so great on gay stuff, but there were actually, pro-gay, and and there's still some Republicans who will vote on gay issues very occasionally, but mostly now it's in lockstep with Trump, which is killing us. All right. You recall the horrible crash down in Washington, in January 29th, military helicopter colliding with an airliner, 67 people died. Well, Jo Ellis, she's a transgender woman. She was wrongfully identified as the pilot in the military helicopter involved. So she's suing Matthew Wallace, a big social media user who blamed her for the crash, told his viewers, listeners, this is who did this. And she got all these transphobic hate messages. So she's suing.
Good. It started with him. He was the one that was the first to break this news that was fake news. It was not her, but nevertheless, it got picked up. This went around the web, and even I think some legit news organizations picked it up, and so now she's taking legal action.
And put her picture back up. She plans on donating any money from damages to the families of those who lost their lives in the collision.
67 people, yes.
Yes. Okay.
I'm ready to go to
how about Lil Nas X?
Lil Nas X.
You should read?
I did read. Yes. Should we save it for entertainment? Do you want to jump in now?
Well, I mean, because it's more about, what's happened to him.
Let's do it.
He's in the hospital with partial face paralysis. Oof. And he's joking his way through it. But, he's kind of, he can tell he's been affected by it, but he seems in good spirits.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that the humor that he's displaying and the fact that he is talking out about this, I hope that's a good sign. I saw him live. He was fantastic. Almost Elton John-like. It was so flamboyant and so delicious. I also did see him once in a gay bar in Harlem. Yeah. And he skipped the line for the loo.
Oh.
Used his celebrity.
Are we criticizing him for that?
I'm just saying you used your celebrity.
Okay. All right, I'm going to talk to somebody we lost out on the West Coast, Keith St. Clair. He was the gay publisher of Vanguard, which was an early gay magazine based in San Francisco. He's died at the age of 79 in Richmond, Texas, suffered from Alzheimer's. He took over Vanguard, which was initially published by the Vanguard organization in 1965. The magazine became a separate entity, and he ran it for 12 years, covering gay life, the transgender community, drug users, and others who were marginalized. It was affiliated with the Glide Memorial Church out there, a very progressive church out there, and at a time when LGBTQ people had few rights. He went on to operate a foster home for youth in San Francisco. He raised over, are you ready for it?
I'm sitting down.
300 foster kids over the years.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It sounds like Boys Town.
It's fantastic. What a pioneer, too. I think we're so accustomed now to finding gay content on our phones and in mainstream media. There was a time when that was not the case. When I was growing up in Edinburgh, Scotland, it was really, really hard to find this.
So I'm growing up in the 60s out on Baldwin, Long Island. And, the local candy store, a newsstand place, they had The Advocate, a gay newspaper. Yes. And I would go in there. Now, if I'm going to buy it, I have to give it to Julius for the transaction. And he certainly raised his eyebrows when I was about 16 and bought this magazine, but I wanted to have it. And it was not wasn't a stroke book or anything. Right. It was a newspaper about
I've never heard it called that before.
You know the phrase. It wasn't a pornographic magazine.
Yeah. Well, Andy, you were a trailblazer too. Did you ever write for The Advocate?
I may have had something in that. Not usually. No, I wrote for all the gay newspapers in New York and elsewhere.
I did not buy The Advocate when I was growing up in Scotland, but I did buy a Shirley Bassey magazine, which might have outed me as much as your Advocate.
Okay. All right. Hungary.
International.
Yes, Hungary. They have now banned in their constitution public events for the gay community. And I have to say, this passed overwhelmingly under Viktor Orban, who was Donald Trump's model of how to govern. Ahead of the vote, the final step for the amendment, opposition politicians and other protesters attempted to blockade the entrance to a parliamentary parking garage. The amendment declares that children's rights to moral, physical, and spiritual development supersede any right that you have to peacefully assemble. So one of the things that they did was they had a big demonstration called Gray Pride.
Yes, clever.
They all dressed up in black and white, and they will continue to do things like this to try to subvert the law. But, it also declares a constitutional basis for denying the gender identities of transgender people, as well as ignoring the existence of intersex individuals who are born with sexual characteristics that don't align with binary conceptions of male and female. I mean, that's just biological fact for those of you right-wingers who are into biological facts, Tens of thousands of Hungarians filled the streets to protest this. and they will continue to protest. He's on the ropes over there, but he's trying to eliminate the opposition.
Wearing grey to mock Viktor Orban's crackdown on diversity. So no diversity here, all grey. Very clever. We have this story out of London that LGBTQ workers in London are feeling the pressure to be less gay at work.
Really?
So a new report out by the Pride in Leadership reveals that 85% of LGBTQ professionals in the UK are facing career obstacles because of their identity. Many people responding to this acknowledge that they do play down their queerness at work.
In London, very discouraging to hear. And the most discouraging story of the week, and if you can stand it, this comes with a trigger warning. In Colombia, trans woman Milary Gonzalez, 32 years old, was brutally murdered in Belo, Antioquia. The horrific crime ignited widespread outrage across the country. Now listen to this, because what happened to her. She was raped, her arms and legs were broken, and she was subsequently thrown into the La Garcia stream. Despite being rescued from the water, she'd succumbed to her injuries. But here's the kicker. Adding to the cruelty, videos filmed by onlookers capturing her struggle in the water circulated on social media, which sparked further indignation and accusations of societal indifference to us. It's now in Colombia, it's the 25th reported killing of an LGBTQ individual in Colombia this year alone. So you did have a condemnation from President Gustavo Petro, who labeled it fascism. So this is what happens when you single people out for persecution because of their identity. That is what fascism is. And that is what we are experiencing in this country. And of course, it's obviously even worse there. He said the violence stems from the violent elimination of human differences. And they've received reports that 13 transgender individuals have been assassinated so far this year in Colombia. So there's an urgent need for change.
I'm glad that you gave a trigger warning on that story.
Yes,
that story is...
Listening to it is just awful, but that's what happened.
Now we have to report it. We have to talk about it. We have to report it.
I tell you, it's painful, doing the show every week with what's going on, but we do have to know.
Does it get to you?
Yes, it does. It does. I mean, you want to cry sometimes when you're hearing these things and you're reading these things. And this is what's horrible thing that's happening to an individual. A person who's just been brutalized. But also, I have to say, when you see everything you've worked for your whole life in terms of civil rights and everything, it's just evaporating
in months.
And then it's like, we used to be able to hold the line, and there were people who would help us do that. But, we certainly remember other times when we had no rights, when sodomy was illegal, when, our people were being beat up on the streets all the time as well, and that's still happening in this country. But, so it's not entirely new, but it's worse now.
It's worse. But let me say on behalf of all of us, and I'm a fan of this show, and when I'm not sitting in this chair, I'm watching it at home. Thank you for you and Anne for doing this.
Well, we're all, well, I have to say is that we're all in this together, because if we're not all in this together, and we really appreciate our viewers who, when you hear about these things, that you get involved, that you do things in your community. We love reporting these things happening in small towns, in little towns in the South, et cetera, and in the Midwest, we're having pride parades and things like that. It's very encouraging. Thank you. Okay. Not encouraging is what's happening with Canadian singer-songwriter Bells Larson. I have a picture of him. He has canceled his upcoming U.S. tour dates thanks to Trump administration's new rules targeting transgender visa applicants. He can't get a visa to come into this country.
To sing his songs, not to come here and protest. This is a singer.
He says, it's crushed my dreams. He'd hoped that his blurring time, which is built around his transition, would help him break into the U.S. music market and connect with other American musicians. More than anything, though, I really just wanted to perform my album for queer and transgender people in the U.S. who saw their stories reflected in my own. So it's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking. Do you know how to help? Download that album today. It's really good. It's a really good album. I've downloaded it, and I downloaded it not knowing anything about this artist except that they could not come to America. And so I wanted to show at least some support, a minimal amount. Download that album. It's great.
So maybe we can link to it in our email. And if you want to be on our email list, go to gayusatv.org. And we put these little extras in, and we'll get a link to where people can download it.
Yeah,
okay?
I am signed up. Forgive me, Andy. It's taken me a little while, but last week I signed up for the email list. I did. I wasn't getting it until last week.
You're going to find out what's on the show this week.
I'll be fascinated. I might have to watch this show.
Okay. Canadian election is April 28th, and because the conservative is aligned with Trump, it looks like he's going to lose. He's 7 points behind.
That's a lot. There was a minute when they were
very encouraging. Only 7% of Canadians now view Trump favorably.
I'm surprised it's 7% after what he said about them. But yeah, it's coming up soon.
And then a terrible story from your home country. The UK Supreme Court just ruled that the legal definition of a woman excludes trans women, although trans folks are still protected from discrimination under the equality law.
I don't know how that fits together. I don't know if those two things can be true, but it's a shocking decision.
Well, Peter Tatchell says the judgment suggests that trans men must use now women's toilets, which will cause immense distress to many women. And, Amara Jones, who's a Black trans leader here, she's the CEO of Translash, she said, in the United States, this decision in the UK provides a legal roadmap to those who wish to block legal equality of trans people. And it also affects all the Commonwealth nations.
Yes, it does.
And how they're affected. All right, AIDS and health news. So Trump's top health pick called for conversion therapy for trans youth. But his name is Brian Christine. He's a big radical Christian, and they want to make him the number two guy in the health department. Dr. Oz, newly confirmed center for, is going to run Medicare and Medicaid. He's telling state Medicaid officials, stop covering gender affirming care for transgender youth. Come on. And then in Texas, out gay state representative Venton Jones, he got something passed there that will authorize ensuring HIV testing as part of standard STD testings. He got a bunch of Republicans to vote for that.
Yeah.
So that's good. And in Houston, we've got a new report that HIV and STI rates have gone through the roof over the last 5 years. And the rates of syphilis in the community have doubled. And so where's the public health establishment in Texas that is going to take care of this? All right, entertainment news. I just want to amuse you with Cola Scola from Oh Mary opened had a whole category on Jeopardy, and this is how Cole started it.
I'm Cola Scola, but for the purposes of the Broadway show Oh Mary and a category today, I'm Mary Todd Lincoln, as you've never seen her before.
As today is the 160th anniversary of the Lincoln assassination.
Oh, what a way to commemorate the Lincoln assassination with Cola Scola.
Have you seen that show?
Oh, loved it.
I loved it.
And Anne really loved it.
Oh, if Anne likes it, then we all have to go. That's a tough critic. So I loved
Anne went twice.
What? It's very,
off
very
Broadway
good.
And on Broadway.
It's very, very good. Okay, Chris Colfer has put up a picture
Glee.
From Glee. There he is. He's at Coachella, and this has gone viral. People are saying, my goodness, how he has grown up. His arms look fantastic. This is not the first time he's flexed his muscles. He's getting much more comfortable in himself, but it certainly is the one that's getting the most attention. What's fascinating about him, I interviewed him about 10 years ago when he was on Glee, and all the publicists and all the producers definitely wanted to make sure you didn't ask him about his sexuality.
Really?
He was a younger
He was
kid.
playing a gay character.
Yeah,
though.
he was, but now he is coming to his own, and he's out there.
He came out a long time ago.
He did, but it's just the transition you see in an actor's career.
Interesting.
Yeah, not allowed to ask that one question.
Interesting. Well, Darren Criss played a gay character, and he was apparently not gay.
He's not gay, yeah.
All right. My friend David Rothenberg has a new book out called Manhattan Mayhem. There's a picture of the book there.
That's great.
And he is a veteran he's 91 years old. He's a veteran Broadway press agent, a gay pioneer, radio host on WBAI, and founder of the Fortune Society for Ex-Offenders, that his life's work. He shares story from his long life in the new book, and he tells us a little bit about it here.
Manhattan Mayhem is really drawn from the mayhem of my life. I've had different careers, one in the theater, one working with formerly incarcerated people. And so I've had these stories in my head. And when the pandemic came, I finally had a chance to sit down and write them. And they are reflective of experiences as somebody worked in the theater with notable people, as someone who had incredible experience with men and women who have been incarcerated. One of the stories, particularly about somebody who has been grew up in a witness protection program, is drawn from a person that I knew, and I realized that nobody knows that kind of story because they're sworn to be silent all the time. So it's cathartic and almost like therapy when you're able to get all of these stories out. They're fact that I fictionalized, and so if that makes sense.
Why is it called Manhattan Mayhem?
Because because many of the real reason is because I wanted to call it a Jew story, which is the title of one of the stories, and everybody said you can't do that, come up with another title. And because Manhattan is where I hang out the most and love, and where there's so much conflict and excitement, Manhattan Mayhem is a suitable title.
Good title.
I've known David for 50 years.
He's been very modest. He's a legendary Broadway
he
publicist. He's been around Broadway.
250 shows.
Wow.
Anyway.
Now let's get the book. So Matt Bomer is talking about being outed by Perez Hilton. There's Matt. He said that he just wasn't ready yet to tell his story. He said it felt very unfair. It was at the time when Perez ran a very popular site. He still has it, maybe not as big an impact as it did back then. He also reportedly lost out on the role of Superman after he was outed.
Interesting. And I told you at the top of the show, Oscar Wilde and Sarah Snook are Tony eligible for, she's doing The Picture of Dorian Gray. So Oscar Wilde is eligible for a Tony this year, according to the eligibility committee.
That's fantastic. I saw this.
More than 100 years after.
100 years after. It is so remarkable. It's like nothing you've ever seen before on Broadway. Sometimes I think you can get a little sick of all the video screens and monitors, not in the show. It's fantastic. If you can get a ticket.
Picture of Dorian Gray. The Picture of Dorian Gray. I saw Boop, the musical. Oh. Now, I grew up with Betty Boop. She was already about 30 years old when I started watching her from the 30s. Now she's 95. But so it's kind of hard to understand why anybody thought this was going to be a timely musical. They bring her into 2025. But it's got, the legendary director and choreographer Jerry Mitchell. And the stars are wonderful. There they are. Jasmine Amy Rogers as Betty, and the out actor Ainsley Mellum as her 2025 love interest. You got that? So yes, Betty time travels from the black and white world of the Depression to a colorful New York on the verge of depression. and it comes together in the second act. It does. It
does. It's beautiful. I saw it a couple of days ago too. Ainsley is remarkable. So everybody's talking about Boop. Jasmine, absolutely well deserved, fantastic. But Ainsley, in my opinion, stole the show. He's just charming.
We just have a minute. You have anything else?
No. Do we have another review?
I saw Adrian Warren and Nick Jonas in the last 5 years, and what should be an intimate show has been blown up for a Broadway stage with two very able and star singers, but they can't make the story of falling in and out of love really work that way. I think it needs to be seen in an intimate space.
Is he too big?
But he's got his fans.
That's a good question. Were his fans there? Are there Jonas Brothers fans in the audience?
I didn't ask. I didn't survey the audience.
You can tell by the
It's been wonderful being with you these last 2 weeks.
I love it, and we miss you desperately, but thank you for letting me keep your seat warm for a couple of weeks.
And thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in and bearing with all this and figuring out what to do about it. And if you figure it out, tell me.
Yes, of course. Bye.